Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajanarandana Yashodanandana Prajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Shri Radha Madhava ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Giridhari ki Jai, Jai Jai Sitanath Nitai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today's verse is text 24 of chapter 4 of Canto 4. The chapter is entitled Sati Quits Her Body. The verse is not on the board. So we're going to repeat the verse and then we won't be able to recite it all together unless you've got your own copies. Some people have got their own copies, maybe we could pass it around. But it might be difficult to follow. We'll see how we go. Okay, it's text 24. Maitreya Uvacha Ityadvare Daksham Anudya Shatruhan Shitav Udichim Nishada Shantavak Sprishtva Jalam Pita Dukula Samvrita Nimilya Drig Yoga Patam Samavishat Ityadvare Daksham Anuja Shatruhan Shitav Udichim Nishasada Shantavak Sprishtva Jalam Pita Dukula Samvrita Nimilya Drig Yoga Patam Samavisat Shat Ityadvare Daksham Anuja Shatruhan Shitav Udichim Nishasada Shantavak Sprishtva Jalam Pita Dukula Samvrita Nimilya Drigyoga Patam Samavishat Yatyantvari Daksham Anuja Shatruham Shitavutichim Nishasara Shanta Srishta Jalam Pita Dukula Samrita Nimilya Drigyoga Patam Samavishat. Does anyone on the ladies' side like to chant? Please repeat. Maitreya uvacha. Maitreya said. Iti, thus. Advare, in the arena of sacrifice. Daksham, to Daksha. Anudya, speaking. Shatruhan, O annihilator of enemies. Shito, on the ground. Udichim, facing north. Nisha Sada, sat down. Shantavak, in silence. Sprishtva, after touching. Jalam, water. Pita Dukula Samvrita, dressed in yellow garments. Nimilya, closing. Drik, vision. The vision. Yoga Patam, the mystic yoga process. Samavishat, became absorbed. Translation. Maitreya, the sage, told Vidura, O annihilator of enemies, while thus speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north, dressed in saffron garments. She sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga. Purport. It is said that when a man desires to quit his body, he dresses in saffron garments. Therefore, it appears that Sati changed her dress, indicating that she was going to quit the body given her by Daksha. Daksha was Sati's father, so instead of killing Daksha, she decided that it would be better to destroy the part of his body which was hers. Thus, she decided to give up the body of Daksha by the yogic process. Sati was the wife of Lord Shiva, who is known as Yogeshwara, the best among all yogis, because he knows all the mystic processes of yoga. So it appeared that Sati also knew them. Either she learned yoga from her husband, or she was enlightened because she was the daughter of such a great king as Daksha. The perfection of yoga is that one can give up one's body or release oneself from the embodiment of material elements according to one's desire. Yogis who have attained perfection are not subject to death by natural laws. Such perfect yogis can leave the body when they desire, Generally, the yogi first of all becomes mature in controlling the air passing within the body, thus bringing the soul to the top of the brain. Then, when the body bursts into flames, the yogi can go anywhere he likes. This yoga system recognizes the soul, and thus it is distinct from the so-called yoga process of controlling the cells of the body, which has been discovered in the modern age. The real yoga process accepts the transmigration of the soul from one planet to another, or one body to another. And it appears from this incident that Sati wanted to transfer her soul to another body or sphere. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Shivarama Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachade Shatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Read the translation again. Maitreya the sage told Vidura, O annihilator of enemies, while thus speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north. Dressed in saffron garments, she sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga. Good morning everyone, Hare Krishna. I'm going to say a few words on Srila Prabhupada's purport and some other thoughts that came up having heard about this wonderful pastime. So the story so far is that Sati, the consort of Lord Shiva, has gone against Lord Shiva's advice to avoid the family gathering at Daksha's place where he was performing a great yajna. It was advised that she'd not go because previously Daksha had offended Lord Shiva. And he was inimical towards Lord Shiva. Being inimical, he decided not to invite him to... It wasn't just a family event, it was a universal gathering. So everyone was invited. In New Varshana, if you have a family gathering, it's quite hard not to invite everyone. You know, where do you draw the line? Because, you know, everyone knows everyone, right? And there's always this consideration of, I don't want to offend anyone, right? So that can be a challenge, practically. But this is very different. It was open invitation, everyone was going to be there. But out of envy, pride, he was inimical towards Lord Shiva. He was resentful towards him. It was quite nasty. So he didn't want him to come. Sati, her parents were there, her mother, sisters, in-laws, everyone was there. Social event. She wanted to attend. Also, she wanted Lord Shiva to be properly respected. as he should be, as the greatest Vaishnava, Vaishnavanam Ita Shambhu. Still, Lord Shiva said, well, better not, because they're so inimical. It's going to make things worse. More aparad, more offence. She didn't listen. She found it too hard. There was a pushing. So she went. She got there. It didn't go very well. It went badly. Daksha blanked her. Didn't want anything to do with her. Just cold. You know, for a father to do that to the daughter, it's a very nasty state of heart. You know, generally, the father towards the daughter is very compassionate, very giving, very, you know, soft-hearted. Right? You ask any daughter, you know, if you want a sweet, do you ask mum or dad? You ask dad, because, you know, dad would say yes, because dad's a softie. You just smile. You just, you know, it's easy to get your way with dad. Mum, she's a little bit more principle-based, you know. The father sees the daughter kind of melts and just goes with it. So for Daksha to be so inimical, it's really highlighting the nature of pride, that it makes the heart so hard. Pride makes the heart so hard that even to one's own family members one can manifest such animosity. The mother, the sisters, they were nice to Sati on arrival, but still she couldn't reciprocate with them because foundational relationship with the father was out of place. So she couldn't be peaceful, she couldn't be happy. Nor was she happy that no one else was really doing anything about it. So it was continual. It had happened before, it was continuing on. She became so disgusted that now this is a very interesting point to recognize. Because who is Sati? Sati is Lord Shiva's consort, right? Lord Shiva, expansion of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. His Shakti is Sati. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur later purport, he makes the point that Sati is material energy, she's Maya Devi. She is Krishna's eternal potency, Maya. Maya Shakti. Original Shakti of the Lord is, original form of the Lord, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, is Giridhari, Krishna. His original potency, Srimati Radhika, Srimati Radharani. They expand through Mathura, Dwarka, Ayodhya, Hastanipur, Ayodhya, Vaikuntha planets, Kailash, into the material world. Lord Shiva, Parvati, well, to become here, Sati, Gauri, Lord Shiva's consort. So she's Maya Shakti. She is the material energy personified. She is the material energy. She is Maya Shakti. So she's an eternal potency of Krishna. This is the point from Siddhanta, that she's not. It's not that she's temporary. So what is this? What's going to happen is that as we're hearing herself here, as we're hearing here, it's just before. Srila Prabhupada mentions the yoga process by which the body is. We're just before she kind of went up, right? So what is this? What is it that was burned up? It can't be her. It can't be her because she is Maya Shakti. She's an eternal potency of Krishna. Yeah. Acharyas point out that the situation was like a flash. It was like, and she's gone. Right? So in that way, we can see how she has transformed. So, and then we hear later how she reappears, right? She reappears later, and again reunites with Lord Shiva. So this is material energy's function, according to Vaishnava Siddhanta. That material energy transforms, not Krishna. And all of the experience of the material world that we have is a transformation of Krishna's energy. Krishna doesn't change. Krishna stays as he is. He's as he is. He doesn't change ever. There's nothing that changes about him. He is constant. It is his potency that changes. So, Vaishnavacharyas in the four Vaishnava Sampradayas, they have gone to great lengths to present understanding of Krishna and his potency, of the Supreme Lord and his potency. And I was thinking if we have some time, then we could look at some of those points that they make. They're very interesting. Before I do that, I want to go through some things in Srila Prabhupada's purport. So I also don't want to go on too long. So I'm not sure how far we'll get. If we'll get to that, we may. I want to go through some points here first. So let's do that. One point that comes up here, Srila Prabhupada makes, is that she learnt the yogic process, and he points out she must have got that from somewhere. Either that she learnt it from Lord Shiva, or that because she was the daughter of a great king, Daksha, then she would have learnt it as the daughter of a great king. So that's what Prabhupada says, as the daughter of a great king. So what does that mean? That could mean that naturally in a great kingdom there are sages, there are rishis, there are brahmanas that can give association, that can teach processes. It could also mean that Daksha himself had that knowledge and was able to give it to her. So Prabhupada says, as the daughter of a great king. So the point is that it's only by association that you can get knowledge of a process. That's the principle. It's not that it just comes from nowhere. So here we're talking about the process of mystic yoga. The same principle applies in bhakti. It is by association of Vaishnavas, of devotees, that we get knowledge of the process of bhakti. And knowledge of the process of bhakti, as we know, is called Abhideya Gyan. Abhideya Gyan is very important in order to be able to perfect the process of bhakti yoga. It's detailed knowledge. It's specific knowledge that relates to what's relevant for the students of the teacher at the time. So Srila Prabhupada has given us in his teachings a specific process of bhakti that comes from Lord Chaitanya, comes through Lord Chaitanya's associates. Primarily we identify as followers of Rupa Goswami. So it's a specific process that we have to cultivate knowledge of and implement into our life in order to be able to perfect. The mood should be that we should think about our sadhana, our spiritual practice, that it depends on us. It depends on our effort. It depends on our hard work. We should take it like that. That's our attitude. But we know that actually it depends on mercy of Krishna. It's actually Krishna's mercy that makes everything happen. It's only by Krishna's grace that anything can take place in spiritual life. But our attitude should be that this is our career. This is our full-time occupation of cultivating Krishna consciousness. Sati here is giving up her body. This also made me remember examples of other Vaishnavas that have, not all of them have done it, some have, and some have attempted and desired to give up the body. There's points there to be considered, but we're going to carry on. So this is one principle that's very important here, is that she got the process through association. So similarly, you can only get a process through association, and how you implement the process and how you cultivate the process in your own life, that requires Sangha, that requires association. We shouldn't think that I'll just chant on my own and I'll just keep chanting and chanting and chanting and I won't get individual, specific advice about how to progress from where I'm at. If we just leave it as a generalization, our spiritual progress, then we're risking a very slow and uninformed approach, which the results of which Krishna's mercy is Krishna's mercy, but Krishna wants us to make use of Sangha, make use of what he's already given. So like I said, our attitude should be that I'll do all that I can first, and then I'm dependent on Krishna's mercy. So that was one point that I felt that was relevant from those lines of Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada says here, the perfection of yoga is that one can give up one's body or release oneself from the embodiment of material elements according to one's own desire. Here clearly, Prabhupada this is in specific context of this. The perfection of yoga. So the perfection of yoga is prema bhakti. The perfection of yoga is pure loving devotion to Krishna. The highest perfection is to serve Krishna in Vrindavan as he desires. So here Srila Prabhupada's, I'm understanding in the context of, here we're talking about this mystic yoga process. We're talking about Sati, who is applying this mystic yoga process to transform, to move on, to free herself from bad association. So that's one aspect. Another is that, in one sense, we could also see how to give up this material body is perfection of the yoga process. And actually that begins at the very beginning of spiritual life, when the devotee gets initiated. When the devotee, initiation is not the very beginning, of course. Initiation is bhajana kriya, it comes a bit later. Beginning is, we get the desire through association. We develop some faith, start to associate with devotees, and we come to initiation. Initiation is talked about as the beginning often because prior is described as like tilling the field. Seed is there, the tilling is, you're getting the ground ready. And then when you actually take initiation, it's formal commitment and you're really beginning the process with a formal. So in that sense. Also, interesting to note that when we take initiation, we're making commitment to the spiritual master. We're dedicating our life to his service. And that is the beginning of the devotee fully using the body as a vehicle for sadhana. So in Rupa Goswami's language, it's called sadhaka deha. In sadhana bhakti, we have the sadhaka deha. That means the present material body which is used for sadhana. That is actually considered a spiritual body, in the sense that it is fully engaged in Krishna's service. And as the sadhaka deha is engaged in Krishna's service, and completely engaged in Krishna's service, so that by that complete absorption in service, who's the spiritual master? The spiritual master is the dear devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So, to engage in the service of the spiritual master means to engage in Lord Chaitanya's service, to engage in the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to engage in service to Lord Chaitanya through the spiritual master, according to the spiritual master's directions. So this is to engage the present material body, the sadhaka deha. The deha is referring to the form, the body of the sadhaka, of the practitioner. As the sadhaka engages the material body in Krishna's service, the body becomes spiritualized. It's complete at the point when sadhana finishes. What's the goal of sadhana? The goal of sadhana is bhava. The goal of sadhana bhakti is bhava bhakti. If our goal is not bhava, then we're not doing sadhana bhakti, according to Rupa Goswami's definition of what sadhana bhakti is. Sadhana bhakti is the purpose of it, and the goal of it is to achieve bhava bhakti. That's the only goal of it. There's no other purpose to sadhana bhakti. If we're doing sadhana with any other thing going on, we're not doing sadhana, technically. It might look a bit like it, but it's not actually sadhana. Actual sadhana means that we're engaging to achieve bhava. So that endeavour is the practice of sadhana. It has its two forms, vaidhi and raganuga. In the process of development from anatta nivritti through to bhava, there is a stage prior to bhava called asakti. At this point, the sadhaka deha is considered completely purified. Sadhaka deha means complete self, emotional, physical, full absorption in Krishna. The absorption in Krishna is so intense and complete at that very advanced stage of devotional practice that the subtle body is cleared of all misconceptions, cleared of all material impressions. It's all removed away. As bhava bhakti descends into the heart, Krishna's internal swarup shakti in the forms of ladini and sandini potency that enter the heart of the sadhaka from one of Krishna's eternal associates, that transforms the experience of the practitioner from one of practice with deep attachment to experiential ecstasy and realization within Krishna's lila, particularly the sadhaka that has come through the path of spontaneous practice. The sadhaka that's come to bhava through vaidhi, through association, they'll come into that same, at that time, if it hasn't already happened. Mostly it does, because of association. If it doesn't, then at that time through association, it will. And that's the best. Because it's all experiential, it's all realized. There's no theory on that platform. It's all experiential realization. So in this way, the subtle and gross body are destroyed through the practice of sadhana. They are completely eradicated. There's a very short verse, like a one line of Sanskrit, 2 lines of translation in Bhagavatam. I've learnt it, but I can't remember it right now. It's not coming to mind. It might do in a minute. Sometimes they come. Anyway, it describes how the subtle body through the practice of bhakti is completely destroyed. So these are some points about, there's so many details in the process of bhakti. These are some points to help us appreciate how Srila Prabhupada is saying that one can give up one's body or release oneself from the embodiment of material elements. So sadhana does require that effort, releasing oneself. It's mercy. Bhava bhakti only comes by mercy. It doesn't come by effort. It can't come by any... It's mercy. That is mercy. And Krishna will make a devotee wait until Krishna's ready to give it. In sadhana, we have to make this strong effort. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Tivrena is the word that's used to describe it. It's forceful. You have to make an effort. It's not enough just to sit back and just, I got my rounds done today. I think I did some preaching. And it's all it's automatic, right? It says that in Nectar Devotion, automatically. There's a lot of detail in what automatically means. Automatically means that we're taking association, we're receiving guidance, we're applying it in our life, we're experiencing the results, we're getting more guidance, we're applying it in our life, we're getting the results, we're applying more guidance. Krishna's pleased by the progressive surrender of the sadhaka. So, yogis who have attained perfection are not subject to death by natural laws. Such devotees are not subject to death by natural laws. Here the example is within the realm of mystic yoga. The same principle applies within bhakti. The actual form of it, the actual real thing is the bhakti principle. When similar principles are applied in other systems, they're reflections of the original, which is actually in bhakti. So they're not subject to by natural laws. The devotee, from the time that he gives himself to Krishna's service, Krishna takes full charge. So there's never anything material about the way that a devotee leaves their body. It's in Krishna's hands. It's in Krishna's hands. And this is a very mystical principle. It's a very mystical principle, how the devotee's karma is controlled by Krishna, and Krishna is directly holding a devotee's life. Then Prabhupada says, generally the yogi first of all becomes mature. So this is a desire in bhakti, that before we leave this body, we become mature. So this is a type of hankering, this is a type of aspiration, this is a type of mood of separation. There's different types of moods of separation. Lord Chaitanya taught the mood of separation in bhakti. That is the mood to cultivate. One aspect of separation is that, it's all up here where I want to go, and I'm here. Look at the gap, look at the difference. That creates such a mood of lamentation in the heart. That's a very favorable mood. We can embrace that. It invokes natural humility. It's a type of humility, the type of humility that Lord Chaitanya talks about as symptomatic of Nishta, Trinadapi Sunichena Taroivasihishnana. It's a type of humility that arises by noticing the difference from where I am and where I want to be. That is a form of humility. Real humility is manifest from prema, manifest from love. It's a spiritual principle. Humility is nothing material that comes of the material mind or senses. Real humility is a symptom of love. It's the actual quality of the soul, inherent swarup, lakshan quality of the soul, to have humility out of love. Love produces humility naturally. But this humility we're talking about here is a humility that could be cultivated as a natural, as a very favorable quality. And it has this mood of separation. This is one aspect of it. I'm separated from where I want to be. That's very favorable. So generally the devotee, the yogi first of all becomes mature before leaving. That's what we hope for, don't we? We hope that we can live out our lives and try our best to become mature. And the devotee feels, it may be many lifetimes before I'm able to, but I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to keep aspiring to aspire to move forward. Prabhupada also makes the point that the mystic yoga system recognizes that the soul is distinct from the material elements and the body. And that the soul transmigrates from one body to the next. And this actual process, this actual ancient, non-relevant mystic yoga system is very different to the so-called mystic yoga systems of the modern age. Prabhupada makes an interesting reference here. He says that the yoga system recognizes the soul and is distinct from the so-called process for controlling the cells of the body. I thought that was very interesting. For controlling the cells of the body, which has been discovered in the modern age. When I first read it, I thought, maybe it could be referring to, everyday Ashtanga yoga, cells of the body, cells make tissue, tissue makes body organs makes organ system, organism. It could refer to just everyday yoga practice that is very popular and people. It could refer to that. And then I also did remember this, and it was around the time that Srila Prabhupada was on the planet. There was a yogi in the foothills of the Himalayas in the Rishikesh region, I believe, and there were some scientists that were doing experiments on him specifically because he had this ability to stop his heartbeat. he could stop his heartbeat through his yogic. I wouldn't say perfection. It's some ability, yogic ability, the very refined control of the mind, going into the body in a very, very refined way, driving in, such a waste of the human consciousness. To just drive into the body like that, to really kind of get such control of the body, such a waste of the consciousness. The consciousness is, if we drive our consciousness to Krishna's Leela, to Krishna's lotus feet like that, then that's actually to the holy name, absorbing the consciousness in the vibration of Krishna's name to that extent. That's valuable endeavor. This, to the point that he can slow his heartbeat down. So they monitored. And then he actually stopped his heart for a period of, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, number of minutes, and it was like, wow, this is phenomenal, some research. There was one person called Ram Das Baba, and he had propagated this, and so that came to mind. I don't actually know specifically what Prabhupada is referring to here. Process for controlling the cells of the body. It's very specific language that Prabhupada is using, controlling the cells of the body. So we have to pray to His Divine Grace to enlighten us about the meaning of that line. Krishna can reciprocate with our desires, whatever desires we have. If you have spiritual desires, Krishna is known as Satya Sankalpa Ishvara. Satya Sankalpa Ishvara. Satya Sankalpa. So if you have Sankalpa means determination, kind of, basically. Determination. Satya, truth. Ishvaraha. Krishna is the supreme controller. So Satya Sankalpa Ishvaraha. If you align your desire with His, He will fulfill it. Satya Sankalpa Ishvara. So if we have spiritual desires that are aligned with what pleases Him, then He's very eager to fulfill those desires. So Srila Prabhupada is very active and present in his Krishna consciousness movement, and we can take shelter of him through our spiritual master, and he's very pleased with devotees that do that. It's the right approach. It's the right approach. You walk into Srila Prabhupada's room, who are you? I'm the disciple of your disciple such and such. Oh, very nice. Nice to meet you. This is a connection with Srila Prabhupada, a valid connection. Originally, so there's endearment straight away. Straight away we're endeared, right? So often it's said that the grandparent is more merciful, right? So it's what we see, isn't it? Practically speaking, the grandchildren go in front of the grandfather, and grandfather, grandmother, so much more merciful, right? Always giving whatever they want, spoiling them, trying to make up for all the things that they didn't do properly with their kids. So many things. It's not like that with Srila Prabhupada. But it's like that in terms of mercy, as a material example, but it's like that in terms of giving. So then we have that direct connection in that way, which is very authentic and real. And Srila Prabhupada can relate with us, reciprocate with us. So I'll hold that desire to find out more about the meaning of that particular line of his purport. This is the nectar of associating with Srila Prabhupada in his purports. So much depth. Yeah, so I thought this would happen. I got this. I've got 5 pages of notes. I've got 5 pages of notes about 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas and different points that Vishnu Swami, Vallabhacharya, Ramanuj, Madhva, and Nimbaditya, Nimbarka, that they make about the material nature. So, we're out of time. Our view, Lord Chaitanya's view, you can see mostly, in terms of this point of understanding material nature, it mostly draws from Ramanuja. Examples that we see regularly in Prabhupada's purports. Gold, the gold mine is there, and then the gold jewelry. The jewelry that's made from the mine is a transformation of the gold, right? So, The Supreme Brahman, he is the gold mine, and his energy is what transforms into the jewelry, right? So in one sense, the energy, the jewelry, and the mine, the gold in the mine, they're non-different. There's non-difference there. You can say they're one. This is Shuddha Dvaita, Vishnu Swami, propounded mostly by Vallabhacharya, the associate of Mahaprabhu, who formed his own Pushti Marg Sampradaya. He has his Anubhasya commentary on Vedanta. This is one of the examples from their line that Prabhupada regularly refers to, Mahaprabhu's associates refer to. Then the other is Ramanuja, example of a green bird in a green tree. So the potency is like the green bird, and the green tree is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. When you look at the green bird and the green tree, they look like they're the same thing. They look like they're one, Vishishta Dvaita. They look like they're one, but actually there's a transformation. There's actually the potency transforms and produces forms. Yeah, it has forms. So Ramanuj, he directly attacks the Advaitin view of Shankaracharya, which has two main points to it, and he directly attacks those two main points around transformation and illusion. Shankaracharya says that transformation, Brahman is actually transforming. Transformation's happening in Brahman. But it can't be, then he says, because Brahman is changeless, and therefore this is an illusion. So, Vivarta it's an illusion. The transformation is an illusion. It doesn't actually make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Because how can something which is beyond illusion, which is unchangeable, which is eternally consistent, how can it become separated to become part of it, to become illusioned? So Prabhupada says it's word jugglery, and it's very elaborate word jugglery based on Shastra. Interpretation of different verses from the Upanishads, woven through the Vedanta Sutra is like a thread, goes like this, along a horizontal line. And all of the statements of Shastra that the Acharyas draw from, they kind of interweave an interpretation through these shlokas of Vedanta Sutra. They kind of weave an interpretation through the shlokas, drawing from Shastra. So it's Shankaracharya's view very bewildering, because it seems like, it's based on this, it's based on that, it says that they're based on these different references to Shastra. When you boil it down, actually, hold on a minute, that doesn't make any sense. You just said that it's unchangeable and totally consistent, but then you said part of it gets separated and becomes illusion. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't actually make any sense at all. So Ramanujacharya, he directly, because of the time that he was manifest on the planet, then he directly refuted Shankaracharya. And but he did it quite subtly. He qualified oneness is his view. It's qualified oneness. So he kept the oneness. He kind of kept a bit of emphasis on the oneness to say, yeah, well, Shankaracharya had a point around that the absolute is one, Advaya Gyan. It is one, but you need to qualify what that means. And this is the actual explanation. He has potency. It's the potency that transforms and manifests within the material world. But that potency is eternal. Madhvacharya, Veda philosophy, says yes, it's eternal, and they're always different forever. There's never any time when the Lord and his potency come together as one. They're always separate. And then he gets into distinctions, 5 categories of distinctions. So it is a big topic, like I said, so I'm going to stop there, although I've tried to do a little summary. Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you all for your kind attention. You're all very patient and tolerant. Do you have any questions or comments, corrections? Prabhu?
Amazing class.
You're very
Thank you so much. So many profound points and insights.
You've got such a nice smile, Prabhu. You've got this real radiant, blissful smile. It's hard not to smile when you smile. It's just like, it's great.
So many questions as well. The first one, we were talking about question is that if one is practicing karma mishra bhakti, one's I'm in my conditioned state and I've got all these desires. I'm approaching Krishna with them. I'm not pretending that they're not there, but they're very mixed. Is that still practicing towards Bhava Bhakti, even not in the Kama Mishra Bhakti?
Yeah. So, Karma Mishra Bhakti is different to pure Bhakti with material desires. That by the impetus of previous karmic reactions and our conditioned nature, we're pushed into material activities which don't align with our highest aspiration. Krishna takes the essence of a devotee's heart. This is explained nicely by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. Prabhupada elaborates on it in 5th canto Bhagavatam. I'd have to draw the reference, I can't give it right now. So there's a difference between a beginning devotee who is aspiring for pure devotion but is pushed by the material energy, and someone who is actually doing Karma Mishra Bhakti. Karma Mishra Bhakti means that there's specific, like here, specific process, specific association. It's very difficult for devotees to be doing Karma Mishra Bhakti in our movement because all of the emphasis, everything is pure devotion. So we should feel like I am, heavily conditioned and pushed by the material energy constantly. Constantly we're totally submerged in Maya. So, and then amongst that we are trying to navigate towards Krishna's lotus feet. So that's the beginning of pure devotion. That's not Karma Mishra Bhakti, that's pure devotion that has an artist. That due to lack of spiritual strength, we get pushed by our anatas. That's pure devotion in Kanishta stage. So the idea is that we strengthen our spiritual practice to steady it in some way. So find a platform of steadiness so that we can maintain a steady external situation to cultivate bhakti. Karma Mishra Bhakti means that I'm serving you, Krishna, because I want a nice car. I really want the car, and actually it's the car that I want, it's the car that I actually want, but I know that you're God, and therefore I'm going to give you a donation now. Now please give me the car. Right? So you're not doing it to please Krishna, you're doing it to get the car. That's Karma Mishra. Right? Shuddha Bhakti that's mixed with karma is, actually I'd like to be a nice devotee to serve you. I'd like to be able to chant your name nicely. But I've got all this stuff going on that I need to deal with. I'm trying to deal with it in such a way that it doesn't cause too much of an obstacle to my progressing in my chanting to you, and my chanting and my desire to please you. So this is why we need to have association, to understand, because some devotees may be thinking, oh, I'm a karma yogi, or I'm a jnana yogi, or something like that. But generally, and also what we see is that there's devotees that are very advanced in Krishna consciousness. They're very advanced devotees. They're very purified in their habits. They're very pure in their motivations. They're very strict in their sadhana. And there's so much more they could be doing in their practice that would be so much enlivening and bringing them closer to Krishna. But it's association and desiring to, let me move into more association to take more. So all along the way we've always got to be praying to the Lord to show us how to get more clarity and depth in our practice, because the understanding upon which we act determines the quality of our action. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a very humbling question. Thank you. Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, Natalie.
I really liked the point you made, Guru, about the cultivating the mood of separation between where we'd like to be and where we are, and
Oh.
feeling that humility.
Mm.
And I was thinking, I feel like that's one of that humility is one of the biggest steps you get out of the Vikasta ashram. You get kind of, there's so much pressure on you, and you really, you want to do more but you can't. But
Yeah.
I was thinking that humility is really something to cultivate and something that's possible with the Vikasta ashram.
Yes.
So
Very much so.
I took that point.
Yeah, you have to invest that into your sadhana. When a little bit of opportunity comes to chant Hare Krishna without any very rare, right? To get those little moments when you can just chant. So invest all of that aspiration, that humility, that desire into chanting Krishna's names. Because then we chant with so much more emotion, chant with so much more affection that's real from the heart. And then that chanting is so much more effective than mechanical chanting that doesn't contain that. Mechanical chanting is always good. Any chanting is good. But the more feeling there is based on proper understanding, the more effective the chanting is. Yeah, and Grihastha ashram is a very, very, very good place for those desires to, and for that mood of separation to be cultivated. It's very important. Yeah. That's why it's there. Alright, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, Premanandi, Hari Bo.
It's very stump stating, Guru ki jai.